I've always loved The Truman Show, and I've long meant to make a video connecting The Truman Show to Christianity and showing the comparisons there. And then I recently saw a clip and I was like, that's it. That's our leaping off point. So I'm going to show you a clip in a second, and then we're going to go through 5 comparisons of Truman and his world and the average Christian and their world.
He's not a performer. He's a prisoner. Look at him. Look at what you've done to him.
He could leave at any time. If his was more than just a vague ambition, if he was absolutely determined to discover the truth, there's no way we could prevent him. I think what distresses you, really, caller, is that ultimately Truman prefers his cell.
The most disturbing part, why skepticism is so important, is that Truman does not see his surroundings, his city, Sea Haven, as his cell. He is experiencing his surroundings as reality. He's just wrong. This is the central connection to Christianity. Christians, like Truman, are technically free to leave. They can stop attending church, or stop reading the Bible, or start reading the Bible. They can dig into scholarship. They can go on YouTube and listen to a case from the other side. They can talk to people who have deconstructed and ask questions. They can doubt. They can admit that they no longer believe. Like Truman, there are no physical locks on the doors. We see that in the ending scene, and it's such a good representation of what it means to be truly trapped in an ideology. But real freedom is not the absence of a lock. It also depends on what someone has been trained and conditioned to believe is on the other side of the door. Most of you will have seen this, but all throughout The Truman Show, he is reminded and manipulated into believing that this is the best place he can be. This is the only safe place. That disaster awaits everywhere else.
I'd like to be an explorer, like the Great Magellan.
Oh, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore.
We present the enduring, much-loved classic, Show Me the Way to Go Home. A hymn of praise to small-town life, where we learn that you don't have to leave home to discover what the world's all about, and that no one is poor who has friends.
What was the furthest you ever got off the island?
Went all over. Never found a place like this, though. Look at that sunset, Truman. It's perfect.
Fade up music. And now going close.
Years wasted. I'll make it up to the sun. I swear.
The stories of his childhood are filled with warnings. His dad was lost at sea as a way to prevent Truman from ever wanting to voyage out further. Again, the conditioning of his sheltering is so mimicked with Christianity. Christianity, like Sea Haven, is an entire constructed world that gives you the story of where you came from and why you're here, what will happen if you stray, reminders of what happened to those that did, what happens when you die, what voices can be trusted, and again, the great danger for standing out from the crowd, from leaving the in-group. The genius behind the concept of the show, The Truman Show, was that everything in Truman's life had been arranged in such a way to make Truman feel like leaving would be irrational. Everything you need is here. All the answers are here. There's nothing but sadness and fear and harm on the outside. So yeah, Christoph says that Truman prefers his cell, but Truman's preference was cultivated. So it's not this actual idea of freedom and choosing between two choices. It's understanding the overall manipulation that goes in to controlling, guiding one's preferences and fears to such an extent that escape isn't something that just is organically going to happen, or at least not easily. And that's the entire story of deconversion and deconstruction. So that was a longer-winded opening than I intended, but I still have 5 comparisons for you. Let's get into it. The first point is that Truman's cell is his world. Truman was born inside Sea Haven. He didn't get to choose to stand outside it, observe it, study it, and choose to enter. He doesn't get to think, okay, Sea Haven is one possibility, one example of a model of reality, and Christoph is just one kind of authority figure. And maybe the people around me are interpreting reality differently than I am. Sea Haven is simply the world. This parallels how Christianity is typically inherited. I understand some people convert to Christianity, and that's its own category of how that system works. This connection with the Truman Show is really based around those of us that were born into this religion, that had parents who were believers, that were sent to Christian schools and Christian sports teams and had Christian friends and influences and spent more time at church than anywhere else. We were in the Christian show, like Truman is in the Truman Show. Most Christians, when they teach their children about God, don't present God as one possible explanation of reality. Instead, they present a set of facts to their child. There is a God. That's not even up for debate. That God is our God, Yahweh, the Christian God, Jesus Christ. God made everything. The Bible is true. Jesus loves you. Prayer works. Heaven and hell are real and are the end result of where we are going to end up for eternity. Sin explains what's wrong with you. Doubt leads to danger. And by the time that the child grows up or gets to a point in their maturity that they could even begin, if they wanted to question those claims, to evaluate them, the claims have already shaped the person who would be doing the evaluating. It's a completely rigged system. That is what indoctrination is. And I'm trying to use the word indoctrination literally here. I know that gets thrown around a lot with teaching young people what to think or believe, and everybody does that to a certain extent. But the definition, what the distinction is with indoctrination, is teaching them to accept a belief uncritically. That's what happens with Christians. That's what happened with Truman. The system teaches you the answers. It teaches you how to interpret every possible potential future question. Again, a comparison from the movie might be, it happens at the beginning when the camera or light for a camera, I can't recall, falls from the dome and crashes in front of Truman. But he is immediately given an explanation for why this doesn't mean what it could mean, what it actually means. The apologetics start as he hears on the radio that there was some kind of an airliner crash. It's actually been a minute since I've seen the movie, but I remember that example. And again, it fits with Christianity so well. Oh, you read that verse. We didn't actually expect you to read that part of the Bible. It may seem confusing or troubling. Here's what it means. And again, it's coming from the authority that you've already been indoctrinated into trusting, to believe in, whether it's your parents or a Bible study teacher or your pastor or a famous Christian apologist. And so therefore, it must be right. Don't be stupid. Don't go against the grain. Don't dig too deeply. This is what it looks like to have your whole world be the cell. Every time there's a crack in the set of the Truman Show, bam, a repair crew of some kind is there fixing it so that Truman can't investigate further. Christianity is jam-packed with this. All the thought-terminating cliches. You're taking the verse out of context. God's ways are higher than ours. The problem is just human free will. Of course the evidence is ambiguous. God wants you to have faith. You can't judge ancient morality by modern standards. Your doubt? That's just proof. It's spiritual warfare. Sometimes I've seen people, when they're right on the cusp of their doubting and their deconstructing, say, well, Brandon, if the Bible's as bad as you say, if there's this many contradictions, if it's so obvious that this isn't truth, how come everyone hasn't woken up to this? How come everyone doesn't see it? If it's really this clear, why do 2 billion people still believe it? And they're earnestly searching for an answer to this. But you don't have to hide every problem, every issue, every contradiction from someone if you've first already taught them how every contradiction should be explained, and that there's an answer for everything, and that if it looks bad, it's not. And then you fill them with hope and a promise of heaven, or fear and a promise of judgment in hell, and you get, quite literally, billions of people believing something that has so many issues with it. And I think the great part of the comparison here is when you watch the Truman Show and you see how much is happening just over the course of a few days, how many accidents, how many almost reveals, how many contradictions, how many mutually exclusive ideas are being held at the same time, you think to yourself, how can he not see it? And you almost have to just believe that, oh, it must have been perfect the last 30 years or however old Truman was. And this week is just a series of unfortunate events. But the reality is that all through Truman's upbringing, there were probably signs. There were probably things that were happening. He was just so conditioned. And there was such a system already in place to handle all of those. And so, yeah, for a religion that has made it this long, it didn't do so by not having an answer, but that doesn't mean that the answers were true. It just means that people were taught to accept these bad answers because it was easier. If we're sticking with the cell metaphor, then let's talk about the prison itself. It starts with the dome. Sea haven. There is only so much space where this exists. And eventually, Truman, being a curious person, would go past those boundaries and he would discover the truth. And so you have to move the prison within. Sea haven is surrounded by water. And I already mentioned in my opening that they kill off his father by having him drown at sea in this horrific, traumatic experience for Truman to condition him not to want to try to leave, at least by this. There's also airplanes, but they create a whole fear of that, and there's always issues at the travel agency. So again, they have to bring the limitations of the physical world that is stopping him into the internal world so that he will stop himself. Can you guess what the comparison here is? It's a lot of things actually, but mainly hell. Hell performs this function so well, so much more than locking a church door or actually isolating a group of Christians in a community in what we think of traditionally as some kind of cult-like behavior. No, they can be out amongst the world. They can explore because they have an internal prison that is so much more traumatic and terrifying to them as a reason that they won't get curious, explore their doubt, expand their boundaries. And it's the fear of either missing out on heaven or what would happen to them in hell and everything else associated with it. Again, what if doubt is the voice of the devil? No one wants the voice of their enemy in their head. Better just to not doubt. What if Satan is deceiving me? Now you can't trust your own thoughts. You thought that seemed clear, but it goes against the Bible, against what your parents taught you, against what supposedly the truth of Jesus is, and so you shut it down. It's not just potentially incorrect, it's potentially the worst possible thought you may ever have, as it is the one that could lead you into eternal damnation. What if I go that way and I die before returning? What if I pass this on to my children and I'm wrong and I end up affecting their souls for eternity? What if I'm wrong and I suffer forever? That's why religions with a hell concept have spread and lasted so much more than those that didn't. So yeah, hell's a big one, but it's just one layer. Outside of the bounds of Christianity, you also have the claims that it's nothing but nihilism. Everything is meaningless. You can't have real joy. It's moral collapse and broken families everywhere. You'll be selfish. It's a place of addiction. It's hopeless. Even if it were real, why would you want that? You just want to die and end? Never see your family again? And at some point, it's almost like it stops making a case for the truth and it's just a case for comfort. See this video here. So Christianity is operating on two systems. One, that unbelievers are mistaken. But two, even if they're right, it's a way worse system. And that's so much of the arguments you get in the modern day. The fight isn't about the truth of Christianity as much as it is, oh yeah, well, what's the alternative? And then falsely destroying every possible alternative because people are so uncomfortable with I don't know. And again, we see that on full display in the Truman Show. Yeah, you can fly to Fiji. You could get in a boat, but is it worth it? What if? Let's move on to our third comparison, which is a really sad one. And that's that the people that Truman loves and trusts and cares about most in the world are also just a part of the set.
I mean, think about it, Truman. If everybody is in on it, I'd have to be in on it too.
It's these relationships that ultimately keep him inside. We see that reflected in the show. His wife is constantly assuring him that they have it made. This is it. Why would you ever want to leave? Oh, Truman, you're being so silly. They try to have a child together with the intent that it will ground him. His mother comes over and reminds him of how much she needs him. His best friend convinces him that it's silly. Almost this, I remember a conversation that they're having where he's like, oh yeah, it almost sounds open and interested. You're going to take that trip? That sounds interesting. Tell me about that. Then just to counter with all the reasons that doesn't make sense. The people in his life reinforce the world that Christoph gave him. Now, I'm not saying that Christian relationships are all fake in the same sense that they are in the Truman Show. Of course not. I really believe that Christian parents actually love their children. Christian friendships can be sincere. Pastors can genuinely care about you as an individual. But that real love can still be part of a coercive system and can still affect someone in the same trapping way. This is honestly what stops so many people. This was the little thing that went off in my mind every time I got close. Or what, I'm just going to devastate my mom? I'm going to potentially kill my marriage? We have children together now. I'm going to affect their future friendships, their future spouses, their opportunities. What if my children believe, and how will that affect how they see me? I could lose my community. For many people, they have to contend with, I could lose my career or their ministry. I'm just going to become someone's prayer request. I've seen it 1,000 times. I'm going to become someone's evangelical mission. People are going to think I'm morally compromised. People are going to think the worst possible things about me. Every future issue I might face, whether it's an illness or a relationship or a job loss, Christians are going to interpret, or could interpret at least, that this is because of my great sin, because of my turning away. All the hardships in life will now be under this frame. I'll lose respect. Christians create this ecosystem, a social ecosystem. And so leaving that or daring to question that threatens the entire social system, which is what we are. It is how we succeed and achieve in the world, is through our social connections. Daring to doubt is daring to threaten your entire emotional world. That is no small thing. And that's why I never give someone a hard time in the comments or anywhere else when they express this idea to me. I don't know if it's worth it, Brandon. I don't know if it is for you. I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't be dishonest. And I'm not saying that that means you are being dishonest, but I meant to myself. I knew at some point that I had to look into it. I had to go deeper. I had to get in that sailboat and let it crash into the end of the wall, no matter what the consequences were, because truth mattered more. Everything else was less if it couldn't be in the truth. And you know what? I'll just say it for me personally, and I know it doesn't work like this for everyone. I'm a better husband now to my Christian wife. I'm a better father to my children. I'm a better friend, even to my Christian friends, than I could have been before, because I'm being honest. The truth will set you free. That part is true. It's the great irony of Christianity. And just like that scene that I'm so sorry, I should have had all the movie clips ready, but that scene with Truman and his friend where he's almost encouraging him to go take that trip. You might have Christians in your life that do the same thing. Oh yeah, no, you should explore. It's healthy to doubt. God's not going to get mad at you for questioning. He says to test everything and hold to what is good, but they never expect. They don't really mean to follow truth wherever it goes. They say it to sound open. They say it to give the facade of freedom. And again, not even manipulatively. I'm not saying all Christians are controlling everything like the Truman Show, but the systems are the same. It is a pseudo sense of freedom. But the second you do try to go too far, everyone scrambles to bring you back.
He's gone. Truman! Let me try it. Truman! It's me! Dad!
Notice there's no guards in the Truman Show. Yeah, eventually they kind of use the cops to make roadblocks and things like this, but the real guards are the people you are terrified to disappoint, the relationships you are horrified at the concept of losing. That's what I mean when I say that people are part of the set. Number 4, every glitch in the Truman Show is converted into evidence for the very system that it otherwise was pointing away from. I know I already mentioned this a little bit with the camera or the light that falls and then it gets turned around into another reason that air travel is unsafe.
Here's a news flash just in. An aircraft in trouble began shedding parts as it flew over Sea Haven just a few moments ago.
Christianity does this exact same thing. If prayer goes unanswered, it's because God had a better plan, or he's testing you, or you weren't sincere enough. All of which just make Christianity even more real, not less. If you complain that you wish you felt the Lord's presence more, you're encouraged that that means he's waiting for you to find him. Keep going, keep searching, dig deeper, pray harder, read the Bible more. He's teaching you to walk by faith. What a blessing. And I should also say that, of course, there's the opposite, right? If the prayer is answered, that's proof of God. If you do feel God's presence, the Holy Spirit is upon you. The system cannot lose. If life improves, God is blessing you. If it collapses, God is testing you. If you remain a Christian, you were a Christian. If you fall away, you were never really a Christian to begin with. If your doubt does disappear, Christianity is true. But if doubt continues, Satan's got you. No possible experience or outcome can then count against Christianity when the system has accounted for every potential outcome and associated it as some kind of evidence for Christianity. That's a rigged system. It can't be falsified, and that's a problem. If your worldview wins, remains true, regardless of literally anything happening, you don't have a worldview that's being tested by experience or evidence. You have one that is just digesting experience and shitting out a false claim of reality. So lastly, and man, I just think this is really interesting, and it comes back to the original clip. It's Christoph's perspective here.
Truman. You can speak. I can hear you.
Was nothing real?
You were real. That's what made you so good to watch. Listen to me, Truman. There's no more truth out there than there is in the world I created for you. Same lies. The same deceit. But in my world, you have nothing to fear. I know you better than you know yourself. You're afraid. That's why you can't leave.
He doesn't try to defend it anymore. There's this tipping point of Truman's knowledge, and all that's left is for him to say, well, fine, but still try to claim authority over Truman's identity. Christianity does this too. When the illusion does collapse, the tactics change. I think it might be the most apt comparison of the 5 because Christianity teaches believers to distrust their own mind. Just like that line, I know you better than you know yourself. I know what you need. I know what's safe. I know where you'll prosper. The heart is deceitful. God knows everything. Who are you to judge God? Lean not on your own understanding. God's morality is higher than yours. What seems cruel to you? Oh, with all of your knowledge, the vantage point you have? What a joke. That might be the very essence of love. Oh, it seems false? Or is that just truer than you can even comprehend? And then again, getting back to the actual example, there is that point, mainly from apologists or pastors or family members who say, I'm not agreeing with you, but if you really think you see it this clearly, Isn't the better answer still here? They'll claim objective morality from a source gives a better potential outcome than the subjective morality of reality. They'll talk about meaning, purpose, and death, and hope, and all the things we've covered so much as if they supersede truth. But for the person that really wakes up to all of this, they've seen too much, just like Truman had. Truman realized his memories weren't real. They were manipulated. His relationships were arranged. His fears were implanted. His very understanding of himself was just some other constructed concept. For a lifelong Christian, waking up, ramming their boat into the edge of the set, deconversion can carry that same psychological heaviness. Who am I if I'm not a child of God? Who is Truman if he's not the husband, son, and friend of Sea Haven? What were all those experiences I called God? What was prayer? Did I spend decades talking to no one? Was the sensual relationship in my entire life completely one-sided? What parts of my personality are actually mine? What morals do I have? What do I care about? How do I know what's right from wrong? It is a complete devastation and destruction of everything that you have ever known yourself to be. That's why Christianity is so powerful. That's why Christoph's proposal at the end of the Truman Show is so powerful. It's offering this cosmic narrative. You can matter. You can have the best life. Here, you were created intentionally. Here, you have purpose. Here, you give value. Here, you have real investment from a higher power. Out there, you're in the unknown, the I don't know, the subjective, the finite. So what are you going to do? Well, spoiler alert, Truman decides it's worth it, with the understanding that though the love he had was real for the people around him, and the experiences he had really happened, it was all constructed in such a falsehood that it was better to go ahead and face that unknown, to not keep listening to the voice in the sky, to not be lured by a sense of comfort or a threat of fear, and to persist, to open the door and to walk through. The Truman Show works on a number of levels in terms of what it can represent. And the philosophical arguments in it about free will and determinism and things like that are so intriguing. But I actually think that its application to religion, to indoctrination, is the most apt, the most interesting, the most insightful, and hopefully the most beneficial. Because if you are going through a deconstruction or deconversion, or you have, and it is hard, and there are losses to be sure, but there's also reality, actual freedom, real autonomy, and that can come with the potential for loss and fear and some of the things that Christians say could happen, but it can also lead to so much more. And I love that that's where the Truman Show ends. They could have done a sequel, they could have shown Truman on the outside, and it could have gone amazing or it could have gone terrible, but that wasn't the point. The point was about following truth, finding out who you actually are when you're out of the system that created you. That, to me, is what deconstruction and deconversion is, and why I wanted to cover this. So that is it. Thank you so much for being here. Life is still a little crazy. Give me grace through the month of July, but I hope to be back Thursday with a comment deep dive. I've saved a couple good ones recently. So until then, keep thinking. I wanted to personally thank my top tiers of support: my Iconoclast, Ann, Chris, Greysteel, Jimmy, Joe, Kitboga, Lori, Matthew, and Perry; my Humanist heroes, Chris, James, Jarrod, and Kristi; my Atheist advocates, Aquitar, Caleb, Dakota, Dan, Jeff, Jeffrey, Jugs, Julie, Paul, Reggae, Sparky, and Thomas, as well as all of my secular scholar patrons and Mindshifter members. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. It means more than you know.